You know, regardless of whether he was born in Hawaii or not, and it tends, the way they're acting, it looks like Kenya, and his grandmother does say it. We know he was an Indonesian citizen, and we know that he had to give up his citizenship to do that, and we know his real name's Barry Soetoro. What are we doing having a president who we can't even figure out his real name? I mean, I think that was done by design to set a precedent.
Hey, Alex, you know, one of the day, you know, the president is part of the enactment of laws. Congress comes along and passes laws. It doesn't become a law, you know, unless there's a, you know, a overriding of a veto or, you know, he doesn't take any action. But he signs off on this legislation. And by his signature on legislation, it becomes a law. If we ultimately can prove, and I believe that Barry Soetoro is not an American citizen, that then becomes an unconstitutional act, and it has an effect upon every bit of legislation at the federal level. And that may very well be, and that's the reason why, you know, a lot of these people come along and say, you don't need to be talking about the birth certificate issue. You know, to me, it's real important because it has an effect upon the legitimacy of the federal government. If we have somebody that doesn't exercise, is not a lawful occupant of the office, and yet he's participating in enacting laws.
Everything else is a fraud. Larry Becraft, stay there. Search his name, Larry Becraft, for his website. Tropical storm Alex is forecast to become a hurricane in the next day and to make landfall the next day and a half. It is going to push a lot of oil out of the Gulf that's out in the middle of the Gulf into the Gulf states in the U.S., and Obama is doing everything he can to block the response of this. This is high treason. This is terrorism. He's on record blocking oil skimming ships, one that's from Taiwan that can get 500,000 gallons a day. I mean, this is amazing. And it's all being blocked so that it's the biggest disaster possible so we can get the carbon tax. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. This is high treason. We'll be covering it more tomorrow. Larry Becraft's our guest, but I wanted to play this from the Supreme Court with elana-Kagan as Solicitor General before them, arguing that the government can have it on the books that they can ban books. Here it is.
If Congress could say no TV and radio ads, could it also say no newspaper ads, no campaign biographies?
The government's view is that although 441B does cover full-length books, that there would be a quite good as-applied challenge to any attempt to apply 441B in that context. And I should say that the FEC has never applied 441B in that context. So for 60 years, a book has never been at issue.
What happened to the overbreadth doctrine? I mean, I thought our doctrine in the First Amendment is if you write it too broadly, we're not going to pare it back to the point where it's constitutional. If it's overbroad, it's invalid. What happened to that?
I don't think that it would be substantially overbroad, Justice Scalia, if I tell you that the FEC has never applied this statute to a book. To say that it doesn't apply to books is to take off, you know, essentially nothing from
we don't put our First Amendment rights in the hands of FEC bureaucrats.
Well, what if the particular movie involved here had not been distributed by
And of course, you know, the
video
federal government tried to stop a movie about Hillary Clinton that was critical of her, and they did stop it, saying that it criticized her, so it was bad. That's what campaign finance reform is. Restrict our free speech, let offshore corporations give even more money. Here's Bloomberg. Banks financing Mexico gangs admitted in Wells Fargo deal. We'll cover this more tomorrow. Bank of America, Wachovia, others just laundering drug money knowingly. Well, of course, that's why they keep drugs illegal, to keep the price up. But, I mean, Larry Becraft, they're now moving into books. They're now moving into speech. And you know, here she is saying the bureaucrats should be able to decide if you can write a book or not. I mean, this woman's a monster.
I don't disagree with you at all, but you know what she's saying there, she has the mindset. She sat down and wrote two law review articles that are similar in nature with the same philosophy. You know that philosophy embeds, you know, is the heart.
She says, I get to decide. She says, I'm a good person, inner law review, and I'll decide. You can trust me with the power.
Why would you trust a bureaucrat with anything?
Well, I mean, this is insane. In our system of government, we trust no one with power that's unconstitutional.
You got that hit the nail on the head. Hey, we've got to get the word out on elana-kagan. I don't know whether we're going to have any impact, but let me just tell you, everything that you've done, Alex, is going to is quantum leaps in the direction we need to go, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, Larry Becraft, I want to thank you, and I have you back very, very soon to cover more of these issues. God bless you. Just search the term, Becraft Briefs, and that'll find your website for folks that want to check it out. We'll talk to you again very soon. Everybody should call Congress. Thank you, Larry. Take care. We need to call Congress. We need to call governors and have them call Congress. We need to call the media and say, is this the new precedent? I mean, a little monster socialist who believes you can ban books and who believes they can, quote, disappear speech, and who doesn't believe in the Second Amendment. I mean, we almost lost our Second Amendment by 1 vote yesterday. See you back live tomorrow. Good job, crew.